Being said, I'll ask Dr. Waiel Awwad, who is from Syria, to give us his view on what is happening. Dr. Awwad, of course, has lived in India since 1979. He speaks Hindi fluently. He trained as a doctor, a medical doctor, and then has gravitated to journalism and even broadcast journalism on a number of Arab chains. So I will ask him to make his presentation.
Thank you, Ambassador Bianca. Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. I'm sorry to say that I have to change my system of presentation for you on the paper, because after I listen in the morning, I think there are important points I would like to focus on. I don't want to repeat. So the paper is available for everybody to see. But since Ambassador Bianca, the chairman, mentioned my presence in India, I wanted to take you back. It may give you a little bit of the history of me as a part of the fourth generation or the third generation Syrian who have left the country. I was 20 years of age when I came to India. And I came to India to study under the exchange program. And also the people of my age came to Afghanistan. They were jihadists. I refused to go a jihadist. I prefer to come to India to study, because I am grateful to my country, Syria. I was educated in a compulsory system, free books and free education, free medication, and a very secure environment, despite the fact we are living in the most turbulent region. These are a grateful point I will leave for the rest of my life. Though I have been out of my country for the last 33 years, I never lost touch base with them. I keep on traveling. I keep on criticizing, because I am supposed to be the aggressive expats of Syrian who has been fighting his case whenever he go to Syria. And I have come to India, studied medicine, yes, and I worked in the journalism from 1989, and since then I have been a broadcasting journalist, and I have been traveling a war correspondent. So I followed my friends to Afghanistan. I followed people to Kashmir. I followed people to Sri Lanka. And finally I followed the American friends, embedded with them to Iraq, where I was captured there for the American troops, and then I was run from captivity and survived the execution by the Iraqi regime that time. Having said that, I would like you to know that the situation overall in the war is nobody is winner. So there is always, we don't say who is right, but who is left. So I think my point I wanted to present here is the culture of wars and terrorism that have been created in this region. Now we are seeing the same repetition of it in my own country, Syria, where we are having now it's a hub for those terrorist organizations who were active there, trained by these people whom their faces were familiar. Those who survived, they ran away, they were recruited, whether it is in Morocco, the North African state, whether it is in Algeria, whether it is in Egypt, whether it's in Yemen, now in Iraq, and then the American. Thanks for the American leaving Iraq, they sent them back. Jabhat al-Nusra, which has come to Syria. These are the facts which I know many of you will not agree, or many of you might not have focused on it, because being a doctor, it's always the truth we look at. And being a journalist, it is the truth. I cannot be the chief bureau of my channel in India for 10 years, and I go to the studio to find a person there sitting in the studio, covering the news for Syria, from a Paltalk room, and he say he's in Homs on Aleppo, giving live story about what's happening in Syria. Is the job I'm supposed to do? No. I'm here to say the truth. And as a doctor also, when we do medication for any person, we know the direction of recovery. And similar fashion, when are you pumped with this much of propaganda news against Syria, you will definitely think I am in the wrong place. And I want to tell you, I am in the right place, and I'll speak my heart out, because I know what's happening in Syria is not what is projected in the current media. It is my country is destroyed, the infrastructure is destroyed, in the behest of a democracy where we did not. I know, we are like any other country. It's 188 country in the world. where people may be feeling that they want a democracy. But is this is the root of democracy? Is this is the way to destroy a country, to bring democracy in place? No. It's the talk now, Mr. Chairman, of security, of people asking, for God's sake, forget democracy. I need my bread. I need to survive. I need to live. That's not the issue we were looking for. We were looking, aspiring for a democracy in the Arab world, where we all, as a young generation, I left the country because I wanted a better education, so I could come, I could serve my country, and I could have a better opportunities because I studied outside. But then I continue. And the tragedy of Syria continue because we are now 24 million Syrian outside Syria, which is 24 million is the current population of Syria. I couldn't believe it when I went in 2005 to attend an expat summit, and I was invited, and I came to know we have 24 million Syrian expat. So I am the third generation of my own, where the fourth generation of the Syrian, my children, will not be now in a position to go back home because of the current culture of jihadists that I have created in my country. But I can assure you, the people of Syria who studied compulsory in the school till the 12th standard will understand that education and elimination of poverty and ignorance is the root for building a society. And what we need is a system in place, and we will work for that system. And I can assure you now, with American, the regional power, external power, Russia and American talking now. They're talking about de-escalation of the political solution. They are sitting across the table. Next month there is a summit. We are expecting some breakthrough. But those who created the culture of jihadists continue in the same pattern. So I will show you how we look at the Arab Spring, or I call it the Islamic tsunami, which have started from North African state and will engulf the whole region. The starting was because of there are certain points which I just picked up from some of the slides just now to show you the poverty line in the Arab world, the common standard for the Arab world, why there was an unrest and social unrest and upheaval, because of the system that we follow, that we have seen that there are many population bomb, we had the poverty lines, and then we also had the struggle on the reforms. In fact, when the Arab took independence, it was a struggle, the transformation of a society from a feudal agricultural society to a modern industrial one, which was a mistake because there was not enough job generated for the people, and the people, there were 30 million people in the Arab world, and where they were the power, employment power, and by the 90s, when they have raised to 100 million, so there were 100 million Arab seekers for jobs, they were not able to get the jobs, so there was more unrest and more distress among the young generation in the Arab streets because there was no jobs and inflations and appeasement beside the other of malpractice of those government imposed, or they came on the American tank and the European tank to rule our countries as an autocratic regimes. So you can see the population bomb also. We had 317 million, 2007, and the projection were also giving very, very dangerous figure of the unemployment in 30 years. So the setup of this, a woman had a very minimal role to play. So the political reforms in the Arab world was minimal, barred by political parties. Mosques were only assembly meeting. Why? Because the United States, when they start giving the Egyptian, I would say, the money, they would have already made sure that the Islamic political Islam was suppressed. So political Islam was not a thing that should have become, because they were thinking that the unity among it may create a kind of unity among the people of the Arab world, and then there will be revolt against this regime. So therefore there were also sense of suppressing all this, so suppressing all the other strata of the society, especially the religious one. So the only place where people used to see each other in the mosque and Fridays or maybe in daily prayer. So you had a very good place to grow resentment against the country, resentment against the regime, especially when the era of pan-Arabism was there during the 1956 of Jamal Abdel Nasser era, where people used to be in the street, and suddenly the creation of Israel came also on one side. So this added more fuel to the pan-Arabism, and we wanted to do this, we wanted to take Israel out, we wanted our Arab territories. So that kind of euphoric among the Arabs was so much that when it happened, nothing happened. installment happened and then the malpractice happened. So people start building resentment against even the regime. So the guns, instead of going to liberate Palestine, turned the gun against each other. And the Muslim organization have been more active than other, where they were able to create their own network, and they have been actively in the most of the Arab states, starting from Turkey, and they have imitated the same kind of parties from the North African state till Syria, where they have failed. Because if you know the relation between, I will come back to the Syrian, that part, I'll focus to you on some certain issues, so let me cross. The Iran was, when the revolution of Iran took place, so to counter the revolution of Iranian, they created Afghanistan. Taliban was brought into power. This is a fact. When they have realized this, so they created a war. First Gulf War, second Gulf War, and third Gulf War was all a creation by the American. Even George Bush, 1992, he said himself, if the American population knows what we are doing in the Middle East, they will lynch us in the street. And it is in the history book of George Bush the father. So I don't know if the American public opinion were really built up on what's happening in the American interest in the region, or the American were doing somebody else's interest in the region to ensure that these are not the American interest that they're really after. So the quick success of the revolution, WikiLeaks have shown us in the beginning that there was no going to be a revolution in Tunisia. There was no going to be a revolution in Egypt. It's going to be, our eyes is in Libya. And he said it, there will be no revolution, a military coup. So military coup on both the countries, I could say it is a political kind of a coup which has happened there, but the military, the system is still in place. They are still in a position to rule. And now the second phase of the political assassination started by those Islamists who came to power have taken place, and it has started in Tunisia and now back in Tunisia with the second phase of the, what we call it, the Arab Spring or the Arab Tsunami, because there is a genuine demand, but it was hijacked by those forces. They were well-trained, well-organized, and they have found the vacuum in a sort of a revolution where there is no leadership, no ideology to follow, and they put the worst part, that they put the secular forces in front. So the secular forces were seeing themselves as a cover-up, and the moment these secular forces pulled out, these Islamists came to the power. And the more important point, I think I should point here, which is very important. The Islamic parties were banned in the Gulf state, but supported by the Gulf and the other Arab states, and the Republican. So when it comes the hit back on them, it's banned. They are being put in jails. They are put in behind bar, even when they are not there, because they ban any parties in Islamic party. But they wanted Islamic party in our part because they know what kind of agenda they are having to mobilize the people. So the Arab media played a role. You all know. I think Atul Aneja has focused on it very well. Arab satellite channels. We started thinking that the monopoly of the West has gone and we are becoming more effective in bringing our own cases. But then we realized that most of the channels, like I work with, and they're not giving the Arab view. Because when I was in Iraq, I remember my channel was telling me, you're not giving the pulsation of the Arab street. Arab street are against the American occupation. I said, well, I am with the American. I'm already 100 kilometers in the first 24 hours. But I can't give, there is nothing on the ground to report. What do you want me to give? You want me to make news, manufacture news, or you want me to give the people what they feel? I'm not here to manufacture news for anybody. And I think my problem started from that one, because I didn't want to give false fact that they are welcomed or not welcome. So these are the figure on the social networking. The importance of the social networking played in the Arab world, where we could see the figure of rising of people using the network and using the offline and also going into Facebook and Twitters, and the figures are giving amazingly good. And the American and the West made sure that the Arab world should continue with the internet irrespective of what will happen. I think the Egyptian example was one of the examples that they have. When they cut, they are having now a legal case against the government of Mubarak for that reason. So the social media support was very strong, and it has been now authenticity of the reports we don't see. I mean, When I used to go to Sri Lanka, I'm giving the report. I have to check the line. I have to check the story. I have to check my sources. I have to give them the authenticity. I have to give everything before they go to the air and show it. Now you go to your camera, you do the shooting, you walk into the studio, you give it to them, and they say, oh, sorry, they give it to us. Maybe false, maybe correct, we don't know, because that's what's happening in our country. A lady was killed, they found the bones, they took it to international UN human rights issues, they issued a condemnation against the Syrian government, and everything was happening. After 1 month, she was on TV, and she's saying, I ran away from my family. It is not me. So what kind of reliability you really wanted to have? You know, it hurts you a lot to see. I was reporting news because it wasn't affecting me. But and I saw the lie happening in my own eyes, or people are reporting false news from a next door room. Come on, these are agents. They are not doing the job of a journalism. And that is why the bigger picture was missing. Everybody, they are flaring up the emotional among the Muslim people, Muslim population, that this is a Sunni, this is a Shia. They till now, I can ask anybody, who knows who is our president? Syrian president. Syrian president, he's a Alawi. His wife is a hard Sunni. His brother-in-law is a Sunni. His minister of defense was a Christian. His own cousin is a Christian. I don't understand why you wanted to segregate on a terms of a country on sectarian line. So because that is the only way you can rule, that's the only way you can flare up among the Arab states and tell them that this is what's happening. It's interesting to see. So here, the American, So here we see the American foreign policy in the Arab world has never been for the American interest. And that's, I picked it up from the Ikhwan al-Muslimin, Muslim Brotherhood picture, where you can see it for yourself, that what Obama was hoping for democracy, and then he got out that they have got the American flag burning. What he has sow, you will always, whatever you grow, you will sow. And here is Syria. Syria everybody is dumping all the Qaeda, all the fighters, everybody going inside Syria because they wanted to create a jihadist group, and they have already succeeded, because the figures and the pictures I have given in my, it's alarming. It's more than 20,000 foreign fighters we have from 30 countries. Like we are sitting here all together, and suddenly you find a person coming, jumping in the head. I said, I liberated you from the government. And he put 2 barricades outside, and he said, now you are liberated. So what kind of liberation? Liberating from who? Or people walking into the Mukhayyab al-Yarmouk of the Palestinians, 63 years refugees of Palestine, living in houses there. And he said, we came to liberate you. He said, liberation is Jerusalem, it's not Damascus. Why are you coming to we are here 63 years, from whom we are liberating us? So this is the false kind of a feeling that they are giving. It's amazing. So whenever there is a big story, the media look for the story they are trying to distract you from. That's my logo. This is the interest. Why are there interest? Why Turkey's interest? Why Saudi Arabia? And why Qatar? Turkey had the best relation with Syrian government, by the way. The best honeymoon I never seen in my life. I was in 1998 on Jazeera, and I blasted Turkish government for its policy against Syria. And I don't know, suddenly our president found that this government of Erdogan was the best government to be friendly. So he can fly over Syria anytime, take his people, take Qatari Amir with him, jump in Syria and sit down with them, discuss regional matters. But it never invested in individual, because we have the best relation between the Turkish people and the Syrian people. I can tell you this, with opening the border, 840 kilometers, we had a very beautiful relation with them. But the government of Turkey, the current government of Erdogan, is doing the damage. And I think they are repeating the same mistake of Pakistan, because whoever grew, whoever make the poison, he will test it. And they will test it in the similar fashion that Pakistan has been doing for itself, because all the jihadists, everybody, if you go to the border, you will find from Zintan, you find from Tunisia, you will find from people from Sham, from Turkmenistan, everybody is sitting across the table, and they are trained for 3 weeks, sent across with a gun, and with the key to Jannah, to heaven, and go to Syria, die as a jihadist. This is the picture. Saudi Arabia, because, regional power wanted to have something against the Syrian regime. They already lost Iraq, so they had a problem with the Syrian issue. Qatar, nothing to say. They are biting, as somebody said, they are given a meal bigger than their stomach. And I think that's the only thing I can see. This is the figure, some of the project of the conspiracy theory, which I don't want to say to you. But here how they have to remove our president. They wanted to kick him out. This is the discovery of gas and oil in the Mediterranean. This is interesting because when they discovered the gas in the Mediterranean, it turned out to be the figure we have, that 2/3 of the gas is in the Syrian side. And 2/3 of the gas in the Syrian side, does it help anybody's interest to keep it in intact Syria? So disintegration of Syria is very much on the card. It has to be divided on lines of sectarian line. So those exploration of the gas, it become a doom, not like in Iraq when the Iraqi occupied Kuwait. The Cyprus people said, we wish we had the oil. They would have come and liberated us from the north. What happened to Cyprus split in two, but we have orange. So now we have gas. The gas, we are paying the price for it. This is the situation in the Arab world where we have no democracy, nothing. And this is one of my Syrian activists who has been beaten up nicely by some of the government supporter, and he been hurt. Ali Farzad, he has shown this. I know him for decades, so he had given this picture of the actual Syrian, the Arab world. Here is that how we look at the American efficiency creating enemies instead of its security. This is written by an American ex-CIA, and I think it's available on YouTube. You can have a look at what the American policy in the region and what they are doing with the Arabs, who, especially those regimes were friendly with the Arab and they destroyed. I'll have a minute because I think this is the Israelis' attack on the Arab world, always blessing by the American. Whether it is in Israel, whether in Palestine, whether it's because Israel have the right to say that we have security. We have our security to have, so fine. But security is always with expansion. We're talking more barricades. Now they're talking of a free zone or a buffer zone in Syria, 15 kilometers. I don't think this is going to be a good example because Hezbollah was created on the basing on the Israeli occupation of Lebanon. It was born on the day Israel occupied Lebanon, 1982. So I don't think Israel should repeat the same mistake they have done on that. These are the Islamists which now they have putting their figures, the pictures, it's all available, the name. Here, how the media create public opinion. In Libya, we call them freedom fighter. In Iraq, we call them terrorists. And rebels are in Syria, but terrorists are in Afghanistan. So it depends where your interests go, you go. Unilateral illegal action, that is what Putin said. I think I have to tell my friend that this is what he said, and he should like his President Putin, otherwise we will repeat the Warsaw, the Polish pools, what they have done, the London pools, and then the Russian was not supporting them even during the Nazi. I think that is raised the issue of what we say, why they have left Libya alone. I think you need to check again on this. The greatest enemy of Islam is ignorant. This is calling people disbeliever. This is kafir, ibn Rushd. We never followed our own religions. We never followed our own teaching of Islam at all. So the Islamic nature, it is easy to recruit. Why they call it Islamic? Because it's easy to recruit. They call it Jabhat al-Nusra, Bilad al-Sham, because it cover Iraq, Syria, covered Lebanon, Palestinian, Jordan. So you know, you can create more kind of fury and come on, join the arm, and there we are going for a struggle to remove the kafir from the power. I don't know who's the kafir and who's the mu'min in this. So what could be for India? I will finalize my word. You can see all my... This is the patriarch, John the 10th, what he said, and it has affected me a lot because I was crying when he was saying it, and when he was last Sunday he said this speech. India will be affected, and everybody who is living on the dreams that India is not, I can tell you India will be the first person to be affected, because the moment Syria go, Iran will go, Iraq is already going, then you are engulfed from Pakistan side, Afghanistan and Iran. Because that is the extremist element they are trying to bring, so they wanted to create that kind of security vacuum that the American leaving and filling it up with the Islamists. Turkey is another strategic point why the Russians are having a principle. It's not only the oil, it's not only that the arms sale. Russia is a great country. Russia can have its own saying in the power. But here you have engulfed by the tsunami from the North African state, going to Turkey, and then they're engulfing the 9th province of minorities of Muslim in that country. Finally, thank you very much. Thank you.